I stood in my living room, staring at the wedding dress hanging from my bookshelf. 3 months of searching, and I'd finally found it. Ivory silk with delicate lace that would catch the light when I walked down the aisle. I ran my fingers over the fabric, imagining Cade's face when he saw me in it. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. Probably Regina with another question about the bachelorette party she was planning. My best friend had been texting nonstop all week, obsessing over every detail like it was her own wedding. I smiled, picking up my phone. Regina and I had been inseparable since college. The kind of friendship where you finish each other's sentences and know exactly what the other person needs before they ask. She'd cried harder than my mom when Cade proposed. The notification wasn't a text. It was an email from an address I didn't recognize. Truth, you need to know ugmail.com. The subject line read, "Before you marry him." My thumb hovered over the delete button. Spam, obviously, but something made me open it. No message, just attachments. 3 photos. The first showed Cade entering a hotel, his arm around a woman whose face I couldn't see. The timestamp read yesterday, when he was supposedly at a work conference in Chicago. My heart stuttered. I opened the second photo. The woman turned toward the camera now, laughing up at Cade. Regina. My Regina, with her hand on my fiancé's chest, looking at him the way she'd looked at no one since her divorce 3 years ago. The room tilted. I sat down hard on the couch, my legs suddenly useless. The third photo was the worst. Cade and Regina kissing in the elevator, his hands in her hair, her body pressed against his. The digital timestamp showed 11:42 p.m. I couldn't breathe. I kept staring at the image, looking for signs it was fake. But I recognized Cade's watch, the one I'd given him for his birthday, and Regina's dress, the green one she'd bought when we went shopping last month. She'd said it was for a work event. My phone buzzed again. A text from Regina. "How's the dress fitting? Can't wait to see pics. Love you." I threw my phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor, screen cracked but still lit with her message. "Love you." I ran to the bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left but bile. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize myself. My face was blotchy, mascara streaking down my cheeks. I looked like someone else, someone broken. My phone rang from where it lay on the floor. Cade's ringtone. I walked over and picked it up, staring at his name on the screen. "Hey, beautiful," he said when I answered. His voice was so normal, so Cade, that for a second I thought maybe the photos were some cruel joke. "How's my bride-to-be?" "Where are you?" My voice sounded strange, like it belonged to someone else. "Still at the conference, last session just ended. Miss me?" The lie slid so easily from his lips. Had he always been this good at lying? How many times had I believed him without question? "Layla, you there? I got some interesting photos today," I said, surprised by how calm I sounded. Silence. Then, "What photos?" "You and Regina at the Palmer Hotel, yesterday." More silence. I could hear him breathing. "Layla, I can explain." "Don't." The word came out sharp enough to cut. "Is she with you now?" "No, Don't lie to me. Not anymore." I heard movement, a door closing. Then his voice dropped to a whisper. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. A laugh bubbled up from somewhere deep inside me, bitter and unrecognizable. "Which time? Yesterday? Last week? How long, Cade?" He didn't answer, which was answer enough. "Is she there?" I asked again. "Yes," he finally admitted. "But Layla, please." I ended the call and blocked his number. My phone immediately lit up with a text from Regina. "Cade just told me. We need to talk. It's not what you think." I blocked her too. Then I sank to the floor, my back against the wall, and stared at my wedding dress. All those fittings, all those plans. The venue we'd spent months finding, the honeymoon we'd saved for, the life we'd mapped out together. All of it built on lies. I don't know how long I sat there, but when I finally stood, my legs were numb and the room was dark. I walked to the dress and touched it one last time. Then I grabbed my scissors from the desk drawer. The first cut was the hardest. After that, it became easier. Satisfying, even. I sliced through silk and lace until the dress was nothing but expensive confetti on my floor. When I was done, I swept the pieces into a garbage bag, tied it shut, and placed it by the door. My phone had been silent since I'd blocked them both, but now it buzzed with an incoming call from a number I hadn't seen in months. Amber, my sister. I almost didn't answer. Amber and I hadn't spoken since Christmas, when I'd chosen to spend the holiday with Cade's family instead of hers. But right now, she was the only person in my life who had no connection to Cade or Regina. "Hey," I said, my voice hoarse. "Layla?" She sounded surprised I'd picked up. "Are you okay? You sound weird." I opened my mouth to say I was fine, my automatic response to that question for as long as I could remember. But what came out instead was the truth. "No," I said. "I'm not okay at all." I sat on a park bench, watching a couple argue near the fountain. The woman gesticulated wildly while the man stared at his shoes. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I didn't need to. Their body language told the whole story. 3 days had passed since I'd discovered Cade and Regina's betrayal. 3 days of ignoring their calls from new numbers, deleting their emails without reading them, and pretending I didn't hear the knocking when they came to my apartment. "You look like you haven't slept in days," Amber said, handing me a coffee. My sister had insisted on meeting after our call, driving 2 hours to see me. Her concern made me feel both grateful and pathetic. "Thanks," I muttered, taking the cup. "That's exactly what every woman wants to hear." Amber sat beside me, her shoulder touching mine. "Want to talk about it?" "Not really." I took a sip of coffee, burning my tongue. The pain felt good, something real to focus on. "Okay?" She didn't push, and I appreciated that. We sat in silence, watching the arguing couple make up with a tearful hug. "I canceled everything," I said finally. "Venue, caterer, flowers. Most of them kept the deposits, but I don't care." "What about the ring?" I twisted the diamond on my finger. I'd forgotten it was still there. "I should probably return it. Or pawn it and buy yourself something nice." That made me smile, just a little. "Pretty sure that's illegal." "Only if you get caught." Amber bumped my shoulder with hers. "Seriously though, what's your plan?" "I don't have one." I pulled the ring off and dropped it into my coffee. It sank to the bottom with a satisfying plunk. "I just know I can't be here right now. Everywhere I go, I see them." "Come stay with me," Amber offered immediately. "I have that spare room. You can hide out as long as you need." I considered it. Amber lived in a small town where no one knew me. No one would ask about the wedding or why I looked like I'd been hit by a truck. But the thought of running away made something harden inside me. "I can't," I said. "If I leave, it's like they win. This isn't a competition, Layla. Isn't it?" I watched a group of pigeons fight over a discarded sandwich. They took everything from me. My future, my trust. If I run away, what does that make me? "Human," Amber said softly. "It makes you human." I was about to respond when I spotted them. Regina and Cade, walking on the path about 50 yards away. They hadn't seen us yet. Regina was talking animatedly, her hands moving as she spoke. Cade nodded, his arm around her waist. "Layla?" Amber followed my gaze. Oh shit, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. They looked so normal together, like any other couple enjoying the park. Had they always been this comfortable with each other, even when I was around? How had I not seen it? "Let's go." Amber tugged at my arm, but I shook her off. "Wait." I ducked behind a tree, pulling Amber with me. "I want to hear what they're saying." This is a bad idea, but I was already moving, keeping to the trees, getting close enough to hear their conversation. Amber followed reluctantly. "Told you we should have waited," Regina was saying. "Now everything's a mess." What was I supposed to do? Cade sounded defensive. Once she got those photos, the wedding was off anyway. You could have been more careful about breaking it to her. Now she won't even talk to us. She'll come around. She always does. The casual confidence in his voice made me want to scream. Had I been that predictable? That easy to manipulate? I don't know. Regina sighed. You didn't see her face when she tried on that dress. She was so happy, Cade. And she'll be happy again. Just not with me. He stopped walking, turning to face her. Look, we did a shitty thing. I'm not denying that. But we can't change it now. I know. Regina's voice dropped so low I had to strain to hear. I just keep thinking about the baby. How are we going to tell her about that? The world tilted sideways. Baby? What baby? We don't have to tell her anything, Cade said. It's not her business anymore. Regina put her hand on her stomach, a gesture so instinctive it had to be real. It feels wrong, keeping it from her. She was my best friend. Was being the operative word. Trust me, the less she knows, the better. I must have made a sound because they both turned toward the trees where Amber and I were hiding. We ducked down, but it was too late. Regina had spotted us. Layla, she called, her voice uncertain. I grabbed Amber's hand and ran, ignoring Regina calling my name behind us. We didn't stop until we reached Amber's car, both of us breathing hard. Did you hear that? I gasped, bent over with my hands on my knees. She's pregnant. She's fucking pregnant with his baby. Amber unlocked the car. Get in. We need to get out of here. I slid into the passenger seat, my mind racing. Regina was pregnant. With Cade's child. A child that could have been mine if things had been different. I think I'm going to be sick, I said, rolling down the window. Just breathe, Amber advised, starting the car. Deep breaths, but I couldn't breathe. All I could think about was Regina's hand on her stomach, Cade's arm around her waist. How long had they been together behind my back? How many times had I talked to Regina about wanting children with Cade, not knowing she was already carrying his baby? As we pulled away from the park, something shifted inside me. The numbness that had enveloped me for days cracked open, revealing something hot and dangerous underneath. I need to talk to Brendan, I said suddenly. Who's Brendan? Cade's college roommate. They're still friends. I pulled out my phone. He might know how long this has been going on. Layla, what are you doing? I looked at my sister, really looked at her for the first time in days. I'm not running away, Amber. I'm not hiding. They don't get to do this to me and just walk away happy. What exactly are you planning? I didn't answer. I was too busy scrolling through my contacts, looking for Brendan's number. The gym was nearly empty at 5 a.m. Just me and the weights and the anger burning through my veins. I added another 10 pounds to the bar and positioned myself under it, ignoring the protest in my shoulders. You're going to hurt yourself, a voice said from behind me. I turned to see Marin, my coworker, watching me with concern. Her presence at this hour wasn't surprising. We'd started this early morning routine together months ago. But I hadn't expected her today. I hadn't expected anyone. I'm fine, I grunted, pushing the bar up. My arms trembled with the effort. Marin stepped forward to spot me. You don't look fine. You look like you're trying to punish your body for something your heart is feeling. I let the bar drop back onto the rack with a clang. Since when are you a therapist? Since my best friend started ghosting everyone and showing up at the gym looking like she's planning a murder. She handed me a towel. What's going on, Layla? Everyone's worried. Everyone except Cade and Regina, I muttered, wiping sweat from my face. Understanding dawned in her eyes. Oh shit, you found out. I froze. You knew? Marin looked away, guilt written across her face. I suspected. Regina's been acting weird for months. And then last week at happy hour, I saw how they looked at each other when they thought no one was watching. And you didn't think to tell me? The betrayal felt fresh all over again. I'm planning a wedding with the man, and you just let me walk around clueless? I wasn't sure, she said defensively. And it wasn't my place. I thought if there was something going on, Cade should be the one to tell you. Well, he didn't. I had to find out from anonymous photos someone emailed me. I grabbed my water bottle, suddenly needing to be anywhere but here. And now she's pregnant. Marin's eyes widened. What? Are you sure? I heard them talking about it. I shouldered my gym bag. So yeah, I'm planning something. But it's not murder. It's justice. Layla, wait. She caught my arm. Whatever you're thinking about doing, don't. Just walk away. Start fresh. I yanked my arm free. That's what everyone keeps saying. Walk away. Be the bigger person. Well, I'm tired of being the bigger person. I want them to hurt like I'm hurting. And then what? Marin challenged. You think revenge will make you feel better? It won't. It'll just keep you tied to them. Thanks for the advice, I said coldly, but I've already made up my mind. I left her standing there, her concern following me out the door like an unwanted shadow. Brendan's apartment was exactly what I expected from Cade's college roommate. Minimalist furniture, gaming setup in the corner, protein powder on the kitchen counter. What I hadn't expected was how easily he'd agreed to meet me. I've been waiting for this day, he said, handing me a beer I hadn't asked for. The day you finally realized what an asshole Cade is. I set the beer down untouched. If you knew he was an asshole, why didn't you warn me? Would you have believed me? He raised an eyebrow. You were so in love you couldn't see straight. Besides, Cade and I have history. You would have thought I was just being bitter. He wasn't wrong. I would have dismissed any criticism of Cade as jealousy or misunderstanding. Love had made me stupid. So what changed? I asked. Why help me now? Brendan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Because what he's doing to you is exactly what he did to Melissa in college. And Tara after that. And probably others I don't even know about. Who's Melissa? His girlfriend before you. They were together 3 years. He cheated on her with her cousin, got the cousin pregnant, then ghosted them both. He took a swig of his beer. Sound familiar? My stomach twisted. Why are you still friends with him if he's such a monster? We're not friends. We're connected. Big difference. He shrugged. I keep tabs on him because someone should, and because I always hoped one day I could help one of his victims get even. I'm not a victim, I snapped. No? His gaze was uncomfortably direct. What would you call it then? I didn't have an answer for that. Instead, I pulled out my phone and showed him the photos I'd received. Do you know who sent these? He barely glanced at them. No, but I can guess. Regina's not Cade's only side piece. There's a woman named Sabrina he's been seeing off and on. She works at his gym. The floor seemed to drop out from under me. There's another woman? Probably several. Cade doesn't do exclusive, even when he's engaged. Brendan's tone was matter-of-fact, like he was discussing the weather instead of the complete devastation of my life. Sabrina found out about Regina a few weeks ago. She was pissed. I tried to process this new information. Not only had Cade been cheating with my best friend, but he'd been cheating on both of us with someone else. The humiliation burned worse than any physical pain. I need to find this Sabrina, I said, more to myself than to Brendan. Already ahead of you. He slid a piece of paper across the coffee table. Her number, address, work schedule. Everything you need. I stared at him. Why are you helping me like this? Something dark flashed across his face. Let's just say Cade has hurt people I care about too. And Regina's no innocent bystander. She knew exactly what she was doing. I folded the paper carefully and put it in my pocket. What do you think I should do with this information? That's up to you. He finished his beer. But if you're looking for maximum impact, wait for the baby shower. Baby shower. Regina's already planning it. 12 weeks along and already sending out save the dates to her inner circle. He smiled without humor. Cade's playing the proud father-to-be. It's quite the performance. The image of them celebrating their betrayal, surrounded by friends and gifts, made me physically ill. But beneath the nausea was something else. A cold, clear purpose. When is it? I asked. 6 weeks from now. Plenty of time to plan something they'll never forget. I stood up, suddenly certain of what I needed to do. Thank you, Brendan. This helps more than you know. He walked me to the door. Just remember something, Layla. Whatever you're planning, make sure it's worth it. Revenge comes with its own price. I thought about Cade's easy lies, Regina's hand on her stomach, the future they'd stolen from me. Some prices, I said quietly, are worth paying. Amber's apartment door swung open before I could knock a second time. Her expression shifted from irritation to surprise when she saw me standing there, overnight bag in hand. Layla, what are you doing here? You said I could stay if I needed to. I shifted uncomfortably. I need to. She stepped aside to let me in. Her apartment was smaller than mine, cluttered with art supplies and half-finished projects. The familiarity of it, the smell of oil paints and coffee, made my throat tighten. What happened? She asked, taking my bag. I thought you were determined to stay in the city. I was. I am. I sank onto her couch. But I ran into Regina at the grocery store yesterday. She tried to talk to me and I just froze. Couldn't speak, couldn't move. Just stood there like an idiot while she apologized for how things happened. What did you say? Nothing. I left my cart in the middle of the aisle and walked out. I pulled my knees to my chest. I realized I need some distance to think clearly, just for a few days. Amber nodded, disappearing into the kitchen. She returned with 2 glasses of wine, handing one to me. So, thinking clearly, she said, sitting beside me. Is that code for plotting revenge? Because your texts have been concerning. I took a long sip of wine. I'm not plotting anything. I'm gathering information. From Cade's friends? From this Sabrina person? She raised an eyebrow. That sounds like plotting to me. It's not like that. But even to my own ears, the defense sounded weak. I just want to understand what happened, how long it was going on, if everyone knew but me. And then what? What's the endgame here, Layla? I stared into my wine glass, watching the red liquid catch the light. What was my endgame? When I'd left Brendan's apartment, I'd felt so certain, so focused. But now, faced with my sister's direct question, I hesitated. I don't know, I admitted finally. I just know I can't let them get away with it. They're having a baby shower, Amber. They're celebrating while I'm picking up the pieces. And you think making them suffer will help you move on? She shook her head. That's not how healing works. Then how does it work? I demanded. Because I've tried everything else. I've blocked their numbers, avoided our usual places, thrown myself into work. But I still wake up every morning with this rage inside me. It's eating me alive. Amber was quiet for a long moment. Do you remember when Dad left? The abrupt change of subject caught me off guard. What does that have to do with anything? You were 12, I was 16. Mom was a mess, drinking too much, crying all the time. She traced the rim of her glass. I was so angry at him. I used to fantasize about ruining his new life with that woman. I even went to their house once, stood outside with a rock in my hand, ready to break their windows. I didn't know that. Because I didn't do it. She met my eyes. I realized it wouldn't change anything. He'd still be gone. Mom would still be heartbroken. And I'd just be the crazy daughter who couldn't let go. This is different, I insisted. Cade and Regina betrayed me. They lied to my face for months, maybe years. I know, and that's awful. She reached for my hand. But revenge won't undo it. It'll just keep you stuck in this moment, reliving the hurt over and over. I pulled my hand away. You don't understand. I understand better than you think. Something in her voice made me look up. Regina called me yesterday. The wine turned sour in my mouth. What? She wanted to know if you were okay. She said she's been trying to reach you. To explain. Explain what? How she fucked my fiancé? How she's carrying his child? The rage I'd been trying to contain bubbled up. What could she possibly say that would make any of this okay? She said it wasn't what I thought. Amber hesitated. She said there were things you didn't know, things Cade had kept from both of you. And you believed her? I don't know what to believe, but I think you should talk to her, hear her side before you do something you can't take back. I stood up, suddenly needing to move. I can't believe you're defending her. I'm not defending anyone. I'm worried about you. She followed me to the window. This isn't like you, Layla. Plotting revenge, obsessing over their baby shower. You're better than this. Maybe I don't want to be better, I said quietly. Maybe I'm tired of being the one who always takes the high road. Amber's reflection in the window looked pained. What exactly are you planning? I turned to face her. Regina's having her baby shower at the Gardenia in 6 weeks. It's invitation only, very exclusive. I need to be there. Why? To make a scene? To humiliate her? To show everyone who she really is. I pulled out my phone, showing her the information Brendan had given me. She's been lying to everyone, not just me. And Cade's been lying to her too. They deserve to have those lies exposed. Amber read through the notes, her expression growing more troubled. Layla, this is a lot. Have you verified any of this? Not yet, but I will. I took the phone back. That's why I need to stay here. I need space from them to put the pieces together. She was quiet for a long moment, studying my face. You know I'll always have your back, but I'm scared this path you're on will hurt you more than it hurts them. I'm already hurt, I said simply. Nothing could make it worse. The look she gave me was so full of sadness it made me want to cry. That's what I'm afraid of, that you believe that. My phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number, but I knew immediately who it was from. Got your number from Brendan. We should talk. I know things about Cade and Regina that will make your revenge so much sweeter. Meet me tomorrow? Sabrina. I looked up at Amber, decision made. I need to borrow your car tomorrow. Where are you going? To meet someone who understands what I'm going through. I put my phone away. Someone who won't tell me to take the high road. Sabrina wasn't what I expected. I'd imagined someone like Regina. Polished, perfect, the kind of woman men leave their fiancés for. Instead, the woman who slid into the booth across from me had purple hair, tattoos crawling up her arms, and eyes that had seen too much. You must be Layla, she said, flagging down a waitress. You look exactly like your Instagram photos. I shifted uncomfortably. How long have you been stalking my social media? Since I found out about you. She ordered a black coffee, then studied me openly. 6 months ago, right after I found out about Regina. 6 months. The timeline hit me like a physical blow. 6 months ago, Cade and I were planning our wedding. 6 months ago, I still believed in forever. So you've known about both of us all this time? I asked when the waitress left. Knew about you. Suspected Regina. Sabrina shrugged. Cade's not exactly subtle when he's juggling women. The constant texting, the mysterious work emergencies, the way he keeps his phone face down. All behaviors I'd noticed but dismissed. Trust makes you blind. Or stupid. Maybe both. Why did you stay with him once you knew? Why does anyone stay in a bad situation? I thought I could change him. She laughed without humor. Plus, the sex was incredible. I'm not going to apologize for that. I flinched. The thought of Cade with other women still felt like a knife twisting in my gut. Look, Sabrina continued. I didn't ask you here to compare notes on Cade's bedroom skills. I asked you here because I have information you can use. What kind of information? She pulled out her phone and showed me a series of text messages between her and Cade. Recent ones, dated after I'd discovered his betrayal. He's freaking out, she explained. Regina's pregnancy wasn't part of his plan. He thought he could keep stringing both of you along indefinitely. I scanned the messages, my heart pounding. Cade complaining about Regina's mood swings. Cade wondering if the baby was really his. Cade suggesting Sabrina meet him at a hotel while Regina was at a doctor's appointment. He's still seeing you? I looked up, incredulous. Occasionally, when he can get away from her. Sabrina took her phone back. Regina thinks she's won, that she's the one he chose. She has no idea he's already looking for his next escape route. The revelation should have brought satisfaction. Proof that Regina wasn't special either, just another woman Cade was using. Instead, I felt a strange, unexpected pang of sympathy for her. She was pregnant with the child of a man who would never be faithful. Does she know about you? I asked. No, and that's where my plan comes in. Sabrina leaned forward, eyes gleaming. The baby shower. It's the perfect opportunity to expose everything. I have texts, photos, hotel receipts. Enough evidence to destroy both of them in front of everyone they care about. The eagerness in her voice made me uneasy. This wasn't about justice for her. It was about inflicting maximum pain. I don't know, I said slowly. That seems… what? Too harsh? She scoffed. After what they did to you? They deserve worse. Maybe they did. But sitting across from Sabrina, seeing the raw hatred in her eyes, I glimpsed a possible future version of myself. Bitter, vengeful, defined by someone else's betrayal. The thought terrified me. I need to think about this, I said, standing up. It's a lot to process. Don't take too long. Sabrina's voice hardened. The shower's in 5 weeks, and if you're not interested in my plan, I'll do it myself. I left the cafe feeling shaken, my certainty crumbling. The revenge I'd been plotting suddenly seemed hollow, a path leading nowhere good. I found Quentin in the community garden behind Amber's apartment building, kneeling in the dirt, coaxing stubborn weeds from between tomato plants. I'd met him briefly when I arrived. Amber's new neighbor, the elementary school teacher with kind eyes who'd offered to show me around town. Need some help? I asked, approaching cautiously. He looked up, surprised. Layla, hey. Sure, if you don't mind getting dirty. I knelt beside him, grateful for the simple task. We worked in companionable silence for a while, the repetitive motion of pulling weeds strangely soothing. Rough day? He asked eventually. How can you tell? You're attacking those weeds like they personally offended you. His smile was gentle, without pity. Plus, Amber mentioned you're going through something. Did she tell you what? Just that someone hurt you badly. He sat back on his heels. I don't need details. Sometimes it's easier to talk to a stranger anyway. The kindness in his voice nearly undid me. I'd been holding myself together with anger for so long, I'd forgotten what genuine compassion felt like. I met someone today, I said, focusing on a particularly stubborn dandelion. Someone who's been hurt by the same person who hurt me. She wants revenge. She wants to destroy them publicly. And you don't? I thought I did. I yanked the dandelion free, roots and all. Now I'm not so sure. Quentin was quiet for a moment. Can I tell you something? When my ex-wife left me for my best friend, I spent months planning ways to get back at them. I fantasized about exposing their affair to her conservative parents, about showing up at their housewarming party, about ruining their lives. Did you do it? No, because I realized something important. He met my eyes. Revenge requires you to keep carrying the pain, to keep reliving the betrayal. It chains you to the very people who hurt you. His words hit too close to home. So what did you do instead? I moved here, started over, found joy in small things. He gestured to the garden. It wasn't easy. Some days I still get angry, but I'm not defined by what they did anymore. I looked down at my dirt-covered hands. I don't know if I can let it go that easily. Who said anything about easy? He stood, offering me a hand up. But maybe there's a middle ground between destructive revenge and passive forgiveness. Something that lets you reclaim your power without becoming someone you don't recognize. As I took his hand, my phone buzzed with a text from Sabrina. Made contact with Regina. She has no idea who I am. Baby shower invitations going out next week. Are you in or out? The deadline loomed before me, forcing a decision I wasn't ready to make. But looking at Quentin's open, honest face, I knew I couldn't follow Sabrina down her path of destruction. I need to make a call, I said, brushing dirt from my jeans. Thanks for the perspective. Anytime, he replied. Some weeds are worth pulling. Others just make room for something better to grow. You did what? Amber's voice rose an octave, echoing through her small kitchen. I continued stirring the pasta sauce, refusing to meet her eyes. I sent Regina a congratulations card. For the baby. Why would you do that? I thought you were trying to move on. I am, I said, tasting the sauce. Needed more salt. But I also need closure. And a cryptic card provides that how exactly? I added salt, stirred again. It wasn't cryptic. It was strategic. I signed it, looking forward to celebrating with you, and included my new number. Amber stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You're planning to go to her baby shower? The event celebrating the child she's having with your ex-fiancé? Have you lost your mind? Maybe I had. The past week had been a blur of conflicting emotions. Rage giving way to grief, giving way to a strange, cold clarity. After my conversation with Quentin in the garden, I'd called Sabrina and told her I wasn't interested in her scorched earth approach. She'd been furious, threatening to move forward without me. But something told me her plan would fall apart without my involvement. I'm not going to make a scene, I assured Amber. I just need to see them together, to understand what happened. For my own peace of mind. Bullshit. Amber crossed her arms. You're still plotting something. I can see it in your eyes. I turned off the stove. Think what you want. But Regina texted me this morning. She wants to meet. And you agreed? I did. I poured the sauce over the pasta. Tomorrow at that cafe near the park. She says she has things to explain. Amber's expression softened. Are you sure you're ready for that? No, I wasn't sure. The thought of facing Regina made my stomach churn. But I'd spent 3 weeks hiding in Amber's apartment, working remotely and avoiding social media. It was time to confront reality. I need to hear what she has to say, I said simply, even if it's just more lies. Amber didn't look convinced, but she dropped the subject as we sat down to eat. The conversation shifted to safer topics. Her latest art commission, my work projects, Quentin's invitation for me to join the community garden committee. It wasn't until after dinner, as we washed dishes side by side, that Amber spoke again about Regina. Just promise me something, she said, handing me a plate to dry. Whatever you're planning, be careful. Not just of them, but of yourself. Revenge changes people, and rarely for the better. I took the plate, remembering Sabrina's bitter eyes, the hatred that seemed to consume her. I know. I promise I'm not turning into her. Into who? No one. I put the plate away. Just someone I met who's been down this road before. The cafe was crowded when I arrived, but I spotted Regina immediately. She sat in a corner booth, hands wrapped around a mug of tea, looking smaller than I remembered. Her pregnancy was visible now, a gentle curve beneath her sweater. She saw me approaching and straightened, her face a mixture of hope and fear. Layla, you came. I said I would. I slid into the booth across from her, maintaining as much distance as possible. You said you wanted to explain. Regina nodded, her fingers tightening around her mug. I do. But first I need to say I'm sorry. What I did was unforgivable. Then why do it? The question came out sharper than I intended. It's complicated. She looked down. Kate and I, it wasn't planned. It just happened. Things like that don't just happen, Regina. You make choices. I know. Her voice was barely audible. And I made terrible ones. I betrayed your trust in the worst possible way. I studied her face, searching for the friend I'd once loved like a sister. All I saw was a stranger wearing her features. How long? I asked. She hesitated. 8 months. 8 months. While I was planning our wedding, picking out flowers, writing vows, Cade had been sleeping with my best friend. The betrayal felt fresh all over again, a wound reopened. Did you love him? I wasn't sure why I needed to know, but I did. I thought I did. Regina's eyes filled with tears. But now I don't know. He's not who I thought he was. Something in her tone made me pause. What do you mean? She wiped her eyes. After you found out, when we finally got together officially, things changed. He became distant, secretive, always on his phone, always working late. I felt a bitter laugh bubble up. Let me guess. You think he's cheating on you. I know he is. She pulled out her phone, showing me a series of text messages. With someone named Sabrina. I found these last week. Seeing Sabrina's name on Regina's phone was surreal. The messages were explicit, leaving no doubt about their relationship. But what caught my attention was the timestamp. 2 days after my meeting with Sabrina, when she'd claimed Cade was trying to escape from Regina. How did you find these? I asked. I checked his phone while he was in the shower. Regina looked ashamed. I know it was wrong, but I had this feeling. And then I found so much more. Messages to other women, dating apps, even... She swallowed hard. Even messages about me saying the baby might not be his. Is it? The question slipped out before I could stop it. Of course it is. Her indignation seemed genuine. I've never been with anyone else. That's what makes his accusation so horrible. I sat back, processing this new information. If Regina was telling the truth, Cade had been manipulating all of us. Me, Regina, Sabrina, probably others I didn't even know about. Why are you telling me this? I asked finally. What do you want from me? Nothing. She reached across the table, then thought better of it and withdrew her hand. I just thought you deserved to know the truth, and... She hesitated. I got your card. About the baby shower. What about it? Did you mean it? About wanting to celebrate with me? The question hung between us, loaded with implications. This was my opening, the opportunity I'd been waiting for. But looking at Regina, pregnant, betrayed, vulnerable, I felt my carefully constructed plan wavering. I don't know, I answered honestly. Part of me wants to support you because we were friends for so long. Another part can't forget what you did. Regina nodded slowly. I understand. But if you did want to come, it would mean a lot to me. As I left the cafe, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. DNA test results confirm what we suspected. Baby isn't Cade's. I have proof. Meet me tonight if you want the full story. This changes everything. Brendan. I stared at the message, my heart racing. If the baby wasn't Cade's, whose was it? And why would Regina lie about something so fundamental? The answers were within reach. All I had to do was meet Brendan and get the proof. Then I could decide what to do with it. Expose them at the shower as originally planned, or find another way to use this information. Either way, there was no turning back now. The gardenia was transformed for Regina's baby shower. Soft pink and gold decorations, floral arrangements on every surface, a table piled high with wrapped gifts. Women in sundresses mingled, champagne flutes in hand, their laughter rising and falling like waves. I stood just inside the entrance, my heart hammering against my ribs, the envelope in my purse feeling impossibly heavy. You came. Regina appeared beside me, her face lighting up with genuine surprise. She wore a flowing dress that accentuated her pregnancy, making her look both vulnerable and radiant. I wasn't sure you would. I said I would. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, too calm for the storm raging inside me. Congratulations. She touched her stomach reflexively. Thank you. It means a lot that you're here. I nodded, unable to form words around the knot in my throat. 3 weeks had passed since our cafe meeting. 3 weeks of sleepless nights and endless debates with myself about what to do with the information Brendan had given me. Come meet everyone, Regina said, taking my elbow gently. Some of the girls from college are here. They've been asking about you. I let her guide me through the crowd, nodding at familiar faces, accepting hugs from women I'd once considered friends. They all seemed surprised to see me, their eyes darting between Regina and me with barely concealed curiosity. "Is Cade here?" I asked, scanning the room. "Not yet. He had a work thing, but he promised to stop by." Regina's smile tightened slightly. "You know how he is with schedules." I did know. It was one of the many things about him I'd overlooked, excused, rationalized away. His perpetual lateness, his vague explanations, his ability to make you feel like you were overreacting when you questioned him. "Layla?" A voice behind me made me turn. Marin stood there, champagne in hand, looking as shocked as if she'd seen a ghost. "What are you doing here?" I invited her. Regina answered before I could. "We're working things out." Marin's eyes narrowed with suspicion. She pulled me aside as soon as Regina was distracted by another guest. "What are you playing at?" she hissed. "Last time we talked, you were plotting revenge. Now you're at her baby shower like you're best friends again?" I took a deep breath. Things have changed. Changed how? Before I could answer, a commotion at the door drew everyone's attention. Cade had arrived, all smiles and charm, carrying a bouquet of roses. He froze when he saw me, his confident facade cracking for just a moment before he recovered. "Layla," he said, approaching cautiously. "This is unexpected." "Is it?" I kept my voice light. "Regina invited me. We've been talking." His eyes darted to Regina, who was watching us intently from across the room. "Have you? About what? Old times? New beginnings?" I smiled, the expression feeling foreign on my face. "The baby." Something flickered in his eyes. Fear, maybe, or calculation. "Right. The baby. Congratulations, by the way." I raised my voice slightly, ensuring nearby guests could hear. "You must be so excited to become a father." He shifted uncomfortably. "Yeah, it's a big change. The biggest." I sipped my water. "I was just telling Regina how amazing it is that you're stepping up, taking responsibility. Not every man would." Cade's smile became strained. "Well, you know me. Always doing the right thing." "Do I know you, Cade?" "I'm not sure I ever did." Before he could respond, Regina called for everyone's attention. It was time for gifts. I watched as she settled into a decorated chair, Cade standing awkwardly beside her, his eyes constantly drifting to his phone. One by one, guests presented their offerings: tiny clothes, handmade blankets, practical items for new parents. Each gift was met with appropriate oohs and ahs, Regina's gratitude seeming genuine despite the tension radiating from Cade. Finally, it was my turn. I approached them slowly, aware of every eye in the room on me. "I wasn't sure what to get you," I said, handing Regina the envelope from my purse. "But I think this is something you both need." Regina looked confused but opened it, pulling out the document inside. Her face paled as she read, her hands beginning to tremble. "What is it?" Cade asked, reaching for the paper. "DNA results," Regina whispered, looking up at me with wide, frightened eyes. "How did you get this?" "Does it matter?" I kept my voice gentle. "What matters is what it says." Cade snatched the paper, scanning it quickly. His expression hardened. "This is bullshit. It's fake." "It's not," I said calmly. "I had it verified by 2 separate labs. The baby isn't yours, Cade." A collective gasp rippled through the room. Regina clutched her stomach protectively, tears streaming down her face. "You're lying," Cade spat. "She wouldn't cheat on me." The irony of his indignation almost made me laugh. "Like you cheated on me? On her? On Sabrina?" His face went slack at Sabrina's name. "How do you know about Sabrina?" I finished for him. "We've met, compared notes. She's been quite helpful, actually." Regina stood shakily. "Who's Sabrina?" "Ask him," I said. "Ask him about all the women he's been seeing while you've been planning this baby shower. While you've been going to doctor's appointments alone. While you've been believing his lies." The room had gone completely silent, everyone frozen in place, witnessing the implosion of carefully constructed deceptions. "Is it true?" Regina asked Cade, her voice breaking. "Have you been cheating on me too?" His silence was answer enough. Regina turned to me, devastation written across her face. "And the baby?" she whispered. "If it's not his, then whose?" I took a deep breath. The moment I'd been planning for weeks finally here. But looking at Regina, broken, humiliated, surrounded by witnesses to her shame, I couldn't deliver the final blow I'd intended. "That's between you and the father," I said quietly. "I just thought you deserved to know the truth about Cade before you tied your life to his permanently." Regina nodded slowly, tears still falling. "Thank you," she said, so softly I almost didn't hear it. Cade looked between us, realization dawning. "You planned this," he accused me. "You set this whole thing up to humiliate me." "No, Cade," I replied, a strange calm settling over me. "You did this to yourself. I just made sure everyone could see who you really are." As he stormed out, phone already pressed to his ear, I felt no triumph, no vindication, only a profound relief that I was no longer carrying the weight of his betrayal alone. Regina sank back into her chair, her friends rushing to surround her with comfort and questions. I stood apart, watching the scene unfold, feeling strangely disconnected from it all. Maren appeared at my side. "That wasn't what I expected," she said quietly. "Me neither." I turned to leave, my purpose here fulfilled. "Layla," Regina called out, stopping me. Our eyes met across the room, hers full of tears, mine finally clear. "Why didn't you tell them everything? About the baby's father?" I smiled sadly. "Because some truths aren't mine to tell." The sunrise painted Amber's garden in gold and pink, dew glistening on the plants we'd spent weeks nurturing. I knelt in the soft earth, transplanting seedlings from their small containers into the ground. The work was methodical, soothing. Press fingers into soil, create space, place roots gently, cover, water, repeat. "I thought I'd find you out here," Quentin said, approaching with 2 steaming mugs. "Coffee?" I accepted gratefully, the warmth seeping through my dirt-stained gloves. "Thanks. I couldn't sleep." "Baby shower aftermath?" He settled beside me, careful not to disturb the newly planted seedlings. "Something like that." I hadn't told him everything about yesterday's confrontation, just that I'd attended Regina's shower and things had gotten intense. "It didn't go exactly as planned." "Your revenge, you mean?" I looked up, surprised. "How did you know?" "I didn't for sure, but I recognized the look in your eyes when you talked about them." He shrugged. I had that same look once. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the garden come alive with morning light. I'd been staying in Amber's guest room for nearly 2 months now, longer than I'd initially planned. Somehow, this small town had become a refuge, and Quentin, with his quiet understanding and gentle humor, had become a friend when I needed one most. "Regina called me last night," I said finally, after everyone left. "What did she want?" "To thank me, strangely enough." I traced the rim of my mug. "She said I could have destroyed her completely, but I didn't." Quentin raised an eyebrow. "Could you have?" I nodded slowly. The DNA test wasn't the only information I had. I knew who the real father was, too. "And you didn't reveal it?" "No." I remembered Regina's face when I'd handed her the envelope. The fear, the shame, the silent pleading in her eyes. It wouldn't have served any purpose except humiliation. She's going to have enough to deal with. That's surprisingly compassionate, considering everything. Maybe. I pulled off my gloves, examining the dirt embedded under my fingernails. Or maybe I just realized I didn't want to be the person who could do that to someone else, even if they deserved it. My phone buzzed with a text. Brendan asking if I'd gone through with the plan. I ignored it, just as I'd ignored Sabrina's angry messages after the shower. Their hunger for destruction no longer matched my own. "What happens now?" Quentin asked. "I don't know." I set my empty mug on the ground. "I've been hiding here, focusing all my energy on revenge. Now that it's over, I'm not sure what comes next." "You could stay," he suggested, his voice carefully neutral. "Amber mentioned you've been working remotely. You could do that from here permanently." The idea was tempting. This quiet life, this garden, this man with kind eyes who never pushed too hard. But something inside me resisted. "I can't keep hiding," I said finally. "I need to go back, face my life." "That's not hiding," Quentin countered. "That's running." Before I could respond, Amber appeared at the garden gate, her expression serious. "Layla, someone's here to see you." My heart stuttered. "Cade?" "No." Amber stepped aside, revealing Regina standing behind her, looking small and uncertain in the morning light. I stood, brushing soil from my knees. "Regina, what are you doing here?" "I needed to talk to you." Her eyes were red-rimmed from crying, but her voice was steady. "Properly talk, not just on the phone." Quentin squeezed my shoulder as he passed. "I'll give you two some space." When we were alone, Regina approached cautiously, as if expecting me to send her away. "I'm sorry for showing up like this." Amber gave me the address. "It's fine." I gestured to the garden bench. "Do you want to sit?" She nodded gratefully, lowering herself onto the bench with one hand protectively over her stomach. We sat in awkward silence, the weight of our shared history hanging between us. "Cade's gone," she said finally. "He packed his things last night and left. No explanation, no goodbye. Just a text saying he needed space." "I'm sorry." And surprisingly, I meant it. "Don't be. You were right about him." She looked down at her hands. "About everything, really. I just couldn't see it." "Neither could I admitted. "Not for a long time." Regina took a deep breath. "There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you months ago." I tensed, preparing for another revelation, another betrayal. "The baby's father," she began, then faltered. "It's Marcus." The name hit me like a physical blow. "Marcus? My brother?" She nodded, tears spilling over. "It happened after your engagement party. We were both drunk, both feeling, I don't know, left behind maybe? It was just once. Then I met Cade at that charity event, and he was so charming, so interested." "Does Marcus know?" My voice sounded distant to my own ears. "No, we haven't spoken since that night." She wiped her eyes. "I was too ashamed to tell him. Too afraid of what you would think." The irony was almost too much. All this time, all this pain, all this plotting. And the truth was more complicated than I could have imagined. "Are you going to tell him?" I asked. "I don't know." She looked at me directly for the first time. "Should I?" The question hung between us, loaded with implications. This wasn't just about Regina and Marcus anymore. It was about a child, my niece or nephew, who deserved to know their father. "Yes," I said finally. "He should know. And for what it's worth, Marcus has always wanted to be a father." Relief washed over her face. "Thank you. For that. And for yesterday. You could have exposed everything, but you didn't." "I almost did," I admitted. "That was my plan all along. To humiliate you both publicly, to make you feel as betrayed as I felt." "What changed?" I looked around at the garden, at the tiny seedlings I'd just planted, at the life slowly taking root. I did. I realized revenge wouldn't undo what happened. It would just keep me trapped in that moment forever. Regina reached for my hand hesitantly. I let her take it, feeling the strange circle we'd traveled. From friends to enemies to something new I couldn't yet name. "I don't expect forgiveness," she said quietly. "I know what I did was unforgivable. Maybe." I squeezed her hand once before letting go. but maybe forgiveness isn't what matters most. Maybe it's finding a way forward that doesn't let the past define you. As she left, promising to call Marcus, I returned to my seedlings. The last one was struggling, its stem bent nearly to breaking. Carefully, I staked it upright, giving it the support it needed to grow toward the light. Quentin reappeared, watching me work. "Everything okay?" "Not yet," I said, patting the soil around the fragile plant. "But it will be." I stood, surveying the garden we'd created from nothing but dirt and hope. Some plants were thriving, others struggling, all of them reaching for something better than where they began. "I think I'm ready to go home now," I said, feeling the truth of it settle in my bones. Not to run away or hide, just to start again. "Need company for the drive?" Quentin asked, his offer simple and undemanding. I smiled, really smiled, for what felt like the first time in months. "I'd like that." The morning light strengthened around us, illuminating the path ahead. Not perfect or painless, but mine to choose, one step at a time.
My name is Haley, and I am a 37-year-old woman who has faced considerable challenges with my in-laws. While my experience with mistreatment is not unique, the way I addressed it may be quite uncommon. I am sharing my story with the hope that it might inspire others who find themselves in similar circumstances to stand up against the abuse they face. The turning point in my ordeal came one day when my husband, Jackson, approached me with a serious expression. "I need to tell you something important," he said. His tone alerted me that what he was about to reveal was significant. "I've seen something terrible involving my mom and sister," he confessed. For years, Cecilia and Molly, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, had been making my life difficult without any justifiable reason. They had gone as far as to ruin my outfits at important events, tamper with my food and drinks to embarrass me in public, and even slander my business reputation. They were upset that I had taken their precious little boy away, as they put it. Despite telling Jackson about their actions repeatedly, he had been reluctant to believe me until now. "What changed your mind?" I asked, curious and somewhat skeptical. Jackson then showed me footage from the security cameras at our business. We own a company that specializes in crocheted items, ranging from baby clothes to handbags. It was primarily my initiative, and it had been flourishing. However, Cecilia and Molly had consistently tried to dissuade me from pursuing this venture. "Are you sure you want to be part of this business? It's doomed to fail," they would say disparagingly. "You don't have the skills needed to manage a business. Maybe you should just quit while you're ahead and stick to being a housewife," they suggested condescendingly. Seeing the evidence for himself, Jackson finally understood the reality of the situation and apologized for not believing me sooner. This acknowledgement was a crucial step in addressing the ongoing abuse and transforming our circumstances for the better. By sharing this story, I hope to empower others to take action and advocate for themselves in the face of adversity. I always felt that Cecilia and Molly, my in-laws, had a vendetta against me. They seemed to take pleasure in preventing me from enjoying life and doing things that brought me joy. I couldn't help but think their actions stemmed from jealousy. Why else would they go to such lengths to make me miserable? My suspicions about their malevolent intentions were confirmed when their continuous efforts to humiliate me became impossible to ignore. Time and again, I showed my husband, Jackson, the evidence of their sabotage, my ruined dresses, the tampered food, and their unfounded accusations against my business. But he needed to see it with his own eyes to truly understand. One day, Jackson finally saw the truth for himself through a video. The footage was shocking. It captured two individuals, both with feminine builds, vandalizing our store. They were disguised with masks, but one of them wore a distinctive necklace that Jackson had given to Cecilia, a unique piece from Fiji. This revelation was undeniable. As I watched the video, I felt a mix of emotions. I was devastated that it took so long for Jackson to believe me, yet relieved that he finally witnessed the truth. Discussing such things about his own family was tough for me. I didn't want to slander or sue them despite the damage they were causing. But I had long contemplated how I would get my revenge. Amidst our discussion, Jackson received a call from Molly. She informed him that their Uncle Jordan had returned from a trip and their mother wanted to organize a big family reunion for the summer. "When is it?" I asked. "This weekend," Jackson replied, his voice filled with hesitation about confronting them. As the weekend approached, we arrived early at Cecilia's house to help prepare for the grand feast in honor of Uncle Jordan, everyone's favorite relative. Upon our arrival, I immediately noticed a shift in Cecilia and Molly's demeanor. Their faces, initially bright with smiles, turned to expressions of jealousy and disdain as they saw us. "Oh, you two came quite early," Cecilia remarked, her tone dripping with surprise and not so subtle displeasure. "Yes, Mom, we wanted to help out," Jackson responded, his voice steady but filled with underlying tension. As we helped with the preparations, I knew this gathering would be more than just a family reunion. It was a chance to address the long-standing issues that had plagued us. I was ready to stand my ground, supported by Jackson, ready to confront the past and advocate for a better, more respectful future. The anticipation was palpable as we prepared for the big family reunion at Cecilia's house. "We know a lot of people are coming today," Cecilia remarked, her voice sugary sweet. "Oh, aren't you just precious?" she added, seeing Jackson and me getting involved with the preparations. "It's our pleasure," I chimed in, trying to keep the atmosphere light. However, Molly and Cecilia shot me looks that seemed to accuse me of a crime they couldn't yet pin down. "Oh, Haley, such a terrible thing for your beautiful business to be vandalized like that. I saw it on the way over here. Just tragic," Cecilia said, her tone dripping with what seemed like forced sympathy. "Simply awful." "Yes," Molly added quickly. Even a child could sense their insincerity, their faces almost twisted into smiles as they feigned concern. I noticed them barely suppressing giggles, but I chose to bide my time and hold my tongue. My plan for revenge needed the perfect moment, and this wasn't it. Instead, I played along with their charade. Jackson, wanting to keep the peace for now, agreed. "Yes, it's just awful. We both wonder who could have done such a thing," he said. "It was really hurtful to see something we've worked so hard on get damaged," I added, amplifying our shared dismay. "Yes, but don't worry, the police will get to the bottom of this," I said, watching their reactions closely. "Police? What police?" "Why, for such a simple crime. I'm sure it was just some stupid teenagers having a bit of fun." "There's really no need to involve the police," Molly hastily interjected, her voice a mixture of concern and dismissiveness. "Oh, Molly, bless your heart for caring so much about these alleged little rascals. But even so, they should be punished for what they've done." "After all, they knew exactly what they were doing," I replied, keeping my tone light yet firm. "I'm inclined to agree with Molly. How many stupid things did you do as a teenager?" "Don't be so rash," Cecilia chimed in, trying to downplay the situation. "Come on, let's focus on getting everything ready for the party." Despite their efforts to deflect, I could tell they were unnerved. They tried to brush off the incident after probing so intently about it. Jackson and I exchanged a knowing look and continued to assist with the party preparations. We spent the morning and early afternoon cooking and cleaning, setting everything up for the event. As 2:45 p.m. approached and family members started to arrive, we finally took a moment to relax. That's when Jackson pulled me aside and whispered, "I have something for you, a concealed microphone. I want you to wear it." This unexpected twist added another layer to our plan. As the reunion buzzed with activity, I readied myself, microphone in place, for whatever the evening might bring. The stage was set, and it was time to see if Cecilia and Molly would reveal their true colors in their own words. Holding the concealed microphone, I was filled with a mix of anticipation and reluctance. Jackson, sensing my hesitation, spoke softly yet earnestly. "I know I'm not strong enough to confront my mother or sister directly," he admitted. "I'm sorry I'm not the assertive, dominant type you might have hoped for. But in a way, this might be better. If you're the one to expose them, you'll get the recognition you deserve. You've always been the stronger one. Wear this mic. Approach them. You never know what you might uncover, and you can achieve your justice." I'll support you in whatever way I can. Although part of me wished Jackson could be more confrontational, I appreciated his support and the trust he placed in me. With a sense of determination, I clicked on the microphone, hit record, and made my way through the bustling house. Finally, I located Cecilia and Molly. They were tucked away in the kitchen, deep in a heated discussion. I paused at the door, eavesdropping on their conversation. "She knows everything, Mom. Did you see how she was looking at us?" Molly's voice was tense with worry. "Shut up, Molly. You're being paranoid. She doesn't know it was us," Cecilia retorted sharply. "I swear, Mom, she knows everything." "Okay, calm down. Even if she suspects something, what can she really do? Jackson loves us, and she loves Jackson. If she found out and told him, he'd just think she's overreacting. That's always worked in our favor, right?" "What do you mean? Remember how we put ink on her dress before her business pitch? Or spoiled her food and drink? She told Jackson, but because he loves us, he overlooked it. He'll do the same now." That was my cue. Fueled by their blatant admission and disdain for my feelings, I pushed the kitchen door open and stepped inside, feigning ignorance. "Hello, you two. Uncle Jordan will be here any minute. Are there more things that need to be done?" "Geez, Haley, you startled us," Molly exclaimed, her voice jumping an octave. "Yes, Haley, I have a weak heart. Don't do such foolish things again," Cecilia added, clutching her chest dramatically. "Apparently not weak enough," I quipped, keeping my tone light but probing. "What did you just say?" Cecilia snapped, her fade slipping momentarily. "Oh, I didn't mean much by it. Just that for such an aged woman, you seem quite active," I continued, deliberately nudging them. "Well, I could have sworn I saw you, or perhaps it was just a dream, engaging in some rigorous activity recently. You were wearing something black, I believe, and also a mask?" They paused, their activities halting for a brief moment. "Bingo! Yeah, I believe you were doing something quite energetic," I added, watching their faces for any telltale reactions, the microphone discreetly picking up every word. It seems there was a deep issue at hand, and I sensed it could be rather serious. "What are you hinting at?" I asked, puzzled by the undertone of the conversation. "You know exactly what I'm referring to, dear," she responded. Cecilia then carefully shut the door to ensure our discussion would be more private and free from interruptions. "What are you implying?" I inquired, feeling a bit defensive. "I'm not implying anything," she reassured me. "But clearly, you're in the dark about this, so let's not dwell on it." Honestly, I must admit, I had witnessed something suspicious myself. Another figure, face obscured, seemed to be involved in dubious activities alongside the person we were discussing. "It's truly unfortunate," I sighed. "I hope those responsible are caught." However, it was time to leave, or so I thought. "Hold on, Molly," Cecilia stopped her daughter. "You wouldn't want to miss what's next." "Miss what?" she queried. At that moment, I decided to show them the video footage Jackson had shared with me. "Look, the culprits have been caught on camera. Now that we know who they are, we needn't look any further," I announced. Haley, frustrated, shot back. "It's tiresome, Haley. Your building isn't the only one that's been vandalized. Just let it go." But I couldn't let it go. "On the contrary," I countered, "this is significant. Take a closer look at this video." They leaned in, scrutinizing the phone screen. Their expressions of horror and shock were undeniable. They were the culprits who had vandalized my property. "Hush now, Mom," one whispered urgently. "This doesn't prove anything. Who else owns this necklace, Cecilia?" "Overwhelmed," Cecilia confessed. "Enough, it was us." Molly chimed in resignedly. "Mom, she's caught us." "There's nothing more to say." "Yes, Haley, we did vandalize your business," Cecilia admitted. "But what will you do about it?" "There's nothing you can do," Molly added smugly. "Jackson will always side with us over you." "That may be true," I acknowledged their belief in Jackson's loyalty. "But what makes you think I won't take action? Do you think I'm afraid of you two?" "My business is like my child. I won't let you harm it. In a desperate attempt to erase the evidence, they lunged for my phone, but I was quicker, dodging their grasp. You can't erase what's already secured elsewhere, I warned as they followed me, and don't try to intimidate me. It won't work. My mom challenged me, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Do you think you're funny? You think you're smart? You'll hand over all the data right now, or I swear I'll... And what exactly will you do? I cut in, my voice steady despite the growing tension. I'll hurt you in ways you can't even imagine, she threatened. Feigning fear, I retorted. Oh, I'm shaking in my boots. Please, spare me the theatrics. We darted around the kitchen, the argument heating up until I managed to fling open the back door and thankfully, Jackson was there. Help me, Jackson! Your mom and sister are out of control. I came to say that Uncle Jordan has arrived. What's happening here? Here's what's happening, my mom snapped. Your foolish wife accuses us of vandalizing her business and now she's threatening us. That's not true, I protested. Jackson, tell them! Silence filled the air. Jackson looked utterly conflicted, stuttering as he tried to find the right words. I know you're not used to taking sides against your family, I pleaded, but I need you to stand by me now, your wife. Still, silence lingered, and Jackson's silence spoke volumes. My heart sank. See, dear, my sister gloated, Jackson will always side with us, not you. That's not true, Jackson finally spoke, his voice low. I care about all of you equally. It's just hard to pick sides. Picking sides? I challenged. Why not just stand by the truth? You saw the footage yourself. Jackson, why would you show her that? My mother accused. Because it's my business too, Jackson said firmly. What you did was wrong not just this time, but many times before. You need to stop this behavior. We might forgive you, I interjected, but I'm still pressing charges. Not if I have anything to say about it, my mother retorted. Just then, Uncle Jordan, our honored guest, stumbled upon the scene. Oh, Jordan, my love! So good to see you, my mom switched her tone, turning to him with a smile. We'll start the party soon. Let me show you to your seat. How was your trip? We aren't done here, Haley, my sister warned. If you try anything, I swear on Dad's grave, we'll make sure Jackson divorces you. Why do you treat Jackson like a child? I countered. He's a grown man and can make his own decisions. He wouldn't just divorce me because you say so, right? Jackson? Jackson hesitated, his silence filling the room again. Disheartened by his lack of defense, I stormed off to the grand dining hall, where about 30 guests awaited. As I took my seat, fuming yet composed, I prepared to face the evening ahead. I managed to maintain my composure as Michael and Molly quietly joined us at the dinner table. Despite Michael's occasional glances, as if he wanted to speak, his silence was a clear indicator of the tension between us. Soon, Cecilia and Uncle Jordan arrived, and the festivities awkwardly commenced, overshadowed by the recent dispute. As dinner progressed, my anger simmered beneath a calm exterior until I could hold it in no longer. I need your attention, everyone, I announced, standing up to address the gathering. Tonight, I must bring to light the actions of two individuals who have made it their mission to torment me. With the room's attention riveted on me, I played the recording of the earlier argument. The raw honesty of the conversation left the room in shocked silence, except for Molly and Cecilia, who sat frozen, unable to deny their words. Accusations flew as they tried to dismiss the recording as a fabrication for sympathy. The dinner quickly descended into chaos with raised voices demanding explanations. Throughout this, Michael remained silent, his usual response until the sound of sirens cut through the noise. The room fell instantly quiet. What have you done, you witch? I'll get you for this, Cecilia hissed at me. I didn't call them, I replied, my voice steady amidst the turmoil. I did, Michael finally spoke up, his voice resolute. It's time they faced the consequences of their actions. I've had enough of how they treat Haley, and it's time I stood by my wife. The police arrived shortly after, entering the house to carry out their duty. They approached Gladly and Molly, while Cecilia cursed and yelled, resisting arrest. Molly attempted to flee but was quickly apprehended. As they were escorted out, their angry and betrayed glances were directed at both Michael and me. After their departure, an awkward silence hung over the room, which slowly turned into a shared catharsis as relatives began to recount their own experiences with Cecilia and Molly's toxicity. Even Uncle Jordan contributed, joking he'd rather be in jail than with them, lightening the mood. The remainder of the evening transformed into one of the most heartfelt family reunions we'd ever had, now free from the negativity that had overshadowed our gatherings. Throughout the night, our family received multiple calls from jail, with Cecilia and Molly on the other end. Some family members took the calls, advising them to reflect on their actions, while others feigned poor connection or outright ignored the calls. This incident profoundly changed Michael's and my relationship for the better. He had proven his support by making that crucial call. As for Cecilia and Molly, released but fined, their usual expressions of jealousy and disdain were replaced by shame whenever our paths crossed. This shift, I must admit, felt like a fitting resolution to their long-standing antagonism. Revenge in this case felt unexpectedly sweet. As I read the message on my phone, my heart came to a sudden halt. It was from Dallas, bluntly stating, I want a divorce. After 17 years of marriage, this was how he chose to break the news. Overwhelmed with shock and anger, I marched into the living room, my hands trembling uncontrollably. What is this, Dallas? I demanded, my voice shaking as he nonchalantly looked up from his laptop. It's exactly what you read, Sienna. I want a divorce, he replied coolly, his face devoid of emotion. Why now, Dallas? After all this time? My voice cracked, revealing the storm of emotions I struggled to contain. Dallas exhaled heavily, annoyed by our conversation. I'm in love with Blakely, my coworker. We want to start a new life together, he confessed, as if he were discussing something trivial. The room seemed to spin as he mentioned Blakely, the young, attractive blonde who was always by his side at work functions. How long? I barely managed to ask. 7 months. And she's moving in soon. You'll need to pack your things and leave, he stated coldly. Anger surged through me. This is my home too, Dallas. You can't just force me out. He stood up, his height imposing over me. I can and I will, Sienna. It's happening, whether you like it or not. Tears welled up in my eyes as the realization hit me the man I had loved, the father of our children, had reduced our life to a cruel betrayal. What about Amaya and Ruth? Do you even care how this affects them? I challenged. They're adults. They'll understand, he replied tersely, his jaw clenched. Understand that their father is a heartless cheater? That he'd discard their family for a fling? I retorted bitterly. Enough, Sienna, Dallas snapped, pounding his fist on the table. I've decided. You need to be out by the end of the week. As I stared at him, my heart broke into countless pieces. You'll regret this, Dallas. I promise you that, I said, my voice filled with resolve. I turned sharply and stormed out, slamming the door behind me. As I got into my car, uncontrollable sobs shook me. How could he do this to us? To our family? I drove without direction, tormented by a whirlwind of questions and fears. Where would I go? What would I tell our daughters? How would I bear the humiliation? Eventually, as dusk painted the sky, I found myself outside Molly's house. She gasped in shock at my tear-streaked face. Val, what happened? I fell into her arms, the floodgates opening as I recounted everything. Dallas is leaving me for his coworker. He's kicking me out. Molly embraced me tightly, her voice fierce. That bastard. I always knew he wasn't trustworthy. But don't worry, Val. We'll face this together. He won't get away with this. In the safety of my best friend's embrace, I felt a surge of determination. I wasn't going to let Dallas dismiss me so easily. He'd underestimated my resolve. This was far from over. It was just the beginning. When I walked into the kitchen, my daughters Amaya and Ruth were engrossed in their phones, barely noticing my entrance. Their expressions were neutral, almost detached. "Girls, we need to talk," I said, my voice shaking just a bit. Amaya looked up, one eyebrow arched. "Is this about Dad's new girlfriend?" The question hit me hard, like a physical blow. "You know about Blakely?" I managed to ask. Ruth rolled her eyes. "Of course, we know, Mom. We're not oblivious. Dad's been close with her for months now. And you're okay with this?" I asked, stunned by their casual acceptance. Amaya shrugged. "Why wouldn't we be? Dad seems happy and Blakely's nice. Besides, Mom, you haven't been around much anyway." Her words stung deeply. "What do you mean by that? You're always working," Ruth chimed in, her tone sharp. "You're never here for us. Dad's the one who's been there, taking us to school, helping with homework. You're too busy with your clients." I was dumbfounded, hearing my own children seemingly turn against me. "I work hard to provide for us," I countered, my voice rising in defense. "Everything I do for you girls." Amaya scoffed. "Yeah, right. You just can't stand seeing Dad happy with someone else. You're selfish, Mom." "You always have been." Tears welled up in my eyes. "How can you say that? I love you both more than anything. If you really loved us, you'd want us to be happy," Ruth said coldly. "And we're happy with Dad and Blakely. We don't need you." It felt like my heart was being torn from my chest. My own daughters, siding with their cheating father and his mistress. "Dallas put you up to this, didn't he?" I said, a sudden realization dawning on me. "He's been poisoning you against me." Amaya stood, her face twisted with anger. "No one put us up to anything. We're old enough to make our own decisions, and we've decided. We want to live with Dad and Blakely. You're not welcome here anymore." Reeling from their words, I stumbled backward, tears blurring my vision. "You don't mean that?" Ruth stood beside her sister, arms crossed. "We do. Get out, Mom. And don't come back." Heartbroken, I fled the house. Outside, I collapsed onto the front lawn, sobbing uncontrollably. How could everything fall apart so quickly? My husband, my daughters, my entire life gone in the blink of an eye. As I lay there, consumed by grief and betrayal, a small spark of anger began to grow within me. Dallas had orchestrated this, turning my children against me for his selfish gain, with Blakely aiding him, cozying up to my daughters while tearing our family apart. I picked myself up, wiping the tears away. I wouldn't let them defeat me. I would fight for what was mine. Pulling out my phone, I dialed the number of the best divorce attorney in town. "Hello, this is Sienna," I said, my voice steady and determined. "I need your help. My husband has cheated on me, and he's turned my daughters against me." After hanging up the phone, I felt a rush of determination. I was resolved to emerge from this ordeal stronger than ever. Dallas and Blakely would rue the day they decided to cross paths with me. Sitting in my attorney's office, my hands were clenched tightly as he perused the documents I had gathered: bank statements, credit card bills, and receipts, all pointing to Dallas's deceit. "Well, Mrs. Thompson," he began, peering over his glasses at the papers strewn before him. "It seems your husband has been quite active financially." I nodded, my jaw set firm. "He's been diverting funds from our joint account for months. I only realized when I started digging deeper." "Jalen," my attorney leaned back in his chair thoughtfully. "And what do you suspect he's been squandering this money on?" A bitter chuckle escaped me. "His escapades with Blakely, no doubt. Fancy dinners, lavish gifts, weekend retreats. He's been enjoying life, while I've been slaving away to keep our family afloat." Jalen's expression darkened. "And what about the assets you both share? Your home, investments?" I swallowed, recalling a snippet of conversation I'd overheard between Dallas and Blakely. "He plans to funnel all that we've built into a new business venture with her. He intends to leave me with nothing." Jalen's eyes narrowed with resolve. Not on my watch. We'll ensure you receive every penny you're entitled to, Mrs. Thompson. My heart swelled with gratitude for this man, seemingly the sole ally I had. Thank you, Jalen. I don't know what I'd do without you. He smiled, though it carried a steely resolve. Thank me when we've completely taken your husband to task. For now, let's talk strategy. For the next hour, we delved into the evidence I had compiled, meticulously crafting a case against Dallas. Jalen was confident we could expose not only Dallas's infidelity, but also his financial misconduct. He assured me Dallas would pay dearly for his actions, in multiple ways. Leaving the office, I felt a powerful sense of purpose. I was not going to let Dallas break me. I would fight back with all my might. My phone vibrated with a message from Molly. How'd it go with the lawyer? I quickly responded better than I could have hoped. We're going to make Dallas regret the day he ever met Blakely. Her reply was swift and supportive. That's my girl. I'm so proud of you, Val. You're a fighter. A smile crossed my face, warmed by the unwavering support of my best friend. Molly had been my rock throughout this turmoil, her steadfastness a constant comfort. As I slid into my car, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. My eyes were red and my skin pale from recent tears, but a new fire burned in my gaze, a fierce determination to see this through, no matter the cost. I thought of Amaya and Ruth, my dear daughters, swayed so easily by their father's influence, and my resolve only strengthened. This fight was not just for me, but also for the integrity of our family. Dallas's deceit wouldn't go unnoticed. I was determined to reveal the truth to our daughters, to show them what kind of man their father really was. And Blakely, that scheming intruder, thought she could waltz into my life and take everything from me, my husband, my family, my whole world. But she was gravely mistaken. I was ready to expose her for the manipulative homewrecker she truly was. As I drove out of the parking lot, a wave of calm settled over me. Ahead lay a difficult journey, but my resolve was firm. Dallas and Blakely had no idea the strength they were up against. I was Sienna Thompson, unbreakable and determined. In the quiet of Jalen's office, my heart raced with anticipation. He slid a folder across the desk with a victorious twinkle in his eye. "We've got him, Sienna," he proclaimed. Trembling slightly, I opened the folder and was met with irrefutable evidence. Intimate photos of Dallas and Blakely, receipts for extravagant gifts and hotel stays, bank statements showing hefty transfers to Blakely's account. It was all meticulously documented. "He can't escape this," Jalen leaned back, satisfaction in his voice. "We've got him dead to rights." A rush of relief surged through me, quickly followed by a fierce anger. "I want him to pay, Jalen, for everything he's done to me and our girls." Jalen nodded, his face grave. "He will, Sienna. I promise you that." My phone buzzed suddenly, cutting through the moment. It was Molly. Apologizing to Jalen, I stepped outside to take the call. "Val, have you seen the posts on Facebook?" Molly's voice was tight with anger. "What posts?" My heart sank. "Dallas is spreading lies about you, claiming you were unfaithful, that you're an unfit mother. It's all over social media." I felt a punch to the gut. "That bastard," I whispered, my voice quivering. "He's trying to turn everyone against me." "Don't worry, Val," Molly assured me fiercely. "I've been setting the record straight. I'm posting about what a lying, cheating scumbag he is, and I've got the receipts to prove it." A smile broke through my worry. Molly was truly defending my honor. "You're the best friend anyone could ask for. You know that?" "Damn right I am," she replied, and I could almost see her grinning through the phone. I quickly filled her in on the damning evidence Jalen had compiled, my anger reigniting with each detail shared. "He's not going to get away with this, Soph. I won't let him." "Damn straight," she echoed. "You're a fighter, Val. You've got this." I hung up, my determination renewed. Dallas could spread whatever lies he wanted. I had the truth on my side. I walked back into Jalen's office, my posture straight and my resolve clear. Let's do this, I declared, my voice steady. I'm ready to file for divorce. Jalen smiled, a spark of admiration in his eyes. I'll have the papers drawn up immediately. Dallas wouldn't know what hit him. As I left the office, a surge of anticipation coursed through me. The path ahead promised challenges, but I was more than ready to confront them. Dallas had underestimated me, and I was determined to prove him wrong. Driving to Molly's place, my mind was buzzing with strategies and plans. Before I could even knock, Molly swung the door open and pulled me into a tight embrace. "We're going to make him pay, Val," she whispered fiercely into my shoulder, "for everything he's done to you." Returning her hug, I felt overwhelmed with appreciation for her unwavering support. "I couldn't face this without you, Soph. You know that, right?" She stepped back, tears glistening in her eyes. "That's what best friends are for, babe. Now, let's get to work. We've got a lying, cheating jerk to bring down." As we sat at her kitchen table, reviewing the evidence and planning our next moves, a calming assurance took hold of me. Armed with the truth, the support of the law, and my steadfast friend Dallas stood no chance against me. Fueled by determination, I stormed into the house with the divorce papers gripped firmly in my hand. Dallas was lounging on the couch, an arm nonchalantly around Blakely's shoulders. They both looked up, their faces a mix of surprise and annoyance. "What the hell are you doing here, Sienna?" Dallas stood, his tone confrontational. "I thought I made it clear you weren't welcome anymore." With a fiery glance, I flung the papers at his feet. "I'm here to serve you with divorce papers. You lying, cheating scoundrel." Blakely's face drained of color. "Divorce papers? Dallas, what's going on?" I laughed bitterly. "Oh, he hasn't told you. Your precious Dallas has been funneling money from our joint account to support your little escapade. And that's just the beginning." Dallas's face contorted with anger. "You have no proof of that. It's just your word against mine." My smile was cold and triumphant. "Actually, I have plenty of proof. Bank statements, credit card receipts, photos of you two together, my lawyer has it all." At that moment, Amaya and Ruth walked in, their expressions a mix of confusion and concern. "Mom, what's going on?" Ruth asked, her voice shaky. Turning to face them, my heart ached at their bewildered looks. "Your father has been deceiving us, girls. He's been unfaithful with Blakely and has been stealing from our family to fund it." Amaya's expression hardened. "That's not true. Dad would never do that." I shook my head, tears welling up. "I'm sorry, my loves, but it is true. He's been manipulating you, turning you against me." Dallas stepped forward, fury etched across his face. "Don't listen to her, girls. She's just trying to turn you against me. She's the one who's been neglecting this family, not me." I laughed, the sound tinged with bitterness. "Neglecting? I've been working tirelessly to provide for this family while you've been playing house with your girlfriend." Blakely stood, her face flushed with indignation. "Don't talk to him like that. Dallas loves me, and he loves you girls. You're just a bitter, jealous woman who can't stand to see him happy." I turned to her, my eyes blazing. "You shut your mouth, you little home wrecker. You think you can just waltz in here and take my husband, my family? Think again. I'm not going down without a fight," I declared, my resolve as firm as ever. Dallas stepped forward, a sneer contorting his features. "You're pathetic, Sienna. You really think you can win against me? I've got the girls on my side, and I've got Blakely. What do you have?" I smiled, the expression chilling and resolute. "I have the law on my side, Dallas. And I have the truth. You can try to manipulate and lie all you want, but in the end, the truth will prevail, and you'll be left with nothing." Turning to my daughters, my heart ached at the sight of their confused and pained expressions. "I love you both more than anything in the world, and I know this is difficult, but your father is not the man you think he is. He's a liar and a cheat, and he doesn't deserve your loyalty." Amaya's face crumpled, tears streaming down her face. I don't know what to believe anymore. I reached out, enveloping her in a hug. Believe in yourself, sweetheart. Trust what you know is right, and remember, I will always, always be here for you, no matter what. Ruth stepped forward, her expression resolute. I believe you, Mom. I'm sorry I ever doubted you. I hugged her tightly, filled with love and pride. It's okay, baby. We're going to get through this together. I turned back to Dallas and Blakely, my gaze steely. I'm filing for divorce, Dallas, and I'm going to make sure you pay for everything you've done. You picked the wrong woman to mess with. With that, I spun on my heel and walked out, my head held high. The battle was just beginning, but I was ready. In the courtroom, my heart thumped loudly as Jalen presented our case to the judge. Dallas sat across the room, his expression arrogant and dismissive, while Blakely was conspicuously absent. Your Honor, Jalen began, his voice imbued with conviction. We have irrefutable evidence that Mr. Thompson has engaged in extramarital affairs and has misused marital assets to fund his infidelity. Furthermore, we have proof of his attempts to manipulate his children and turn them against their mother. The judge, a stern-looking woman in her 50s, nodded gravely. I have reviewed the evidence, Mr. Stevens, and I must say, it is quite compelling. Dallas's lawyer, a slick man in a costly suit, stood up. Your Honor, this so-called evidence is nothing more than hearsay and speculation. My client is a devoted husband and father who has been unfairly maligned by his vindictive ex-wife. A surge of anger washed over me at his words. How dare he paint me as the villain? But Jalen was prepared. With all due respect, Your Honor, the evidence speaks for itself, Jalen countered firmly. We have bank statements, credit card receipts, and photographic proof of Mr. Thompson's infidelity and financial misconduct. This is not hearsay or speculation. It is fact. The judge's gaze hardened as she turned to Dallas. Mr. Thompson, do you have anything to say in your defense? Dallas stood, his face contorted with feigned indignation. Your Honor, I have been nothing but a loving and devoted husband and father. My wife's accusations are baseless and cruel. She is simply trying to punish me for finding happiness with another woman. The blatant dishonesty was too much for me, and I struggled to maintain composure, knowing the truth was on my side. I let out a bitter laugh. Is that what you call it, Dallas? Happiness? Betraying your family and stealing from our children's future to finance your sordid affair? The judge pounded her gavel, her expression stern. Order in the court. Mr. Thompson, I have heard enough. The evidence presented against you is overwhelming. I am granting Mrs. Thompson's petition for divorce and awarding her a substantial portion of your shared assets as compensation for your infidelity and financial misconduct. Dallas's face drained of color, shock etching his features. Your Honor, you can't do this. I'll be ruined. The judge met his plea with a steely glare. You should have considered that before you decided to betray your family. Mr. Thompson, actions have consequences. A wave of vindication washed over me as the judge announced her decision. After months of pain and betrayal, justice had prevailed. Dallas would face the repercussions of his actions. As we exited the courtroom, Jalen, my attorney, pulled me aside with a gentle smile. Congratulations, Sienna. You stood up for yourself and your children, and you won. I hugged him, tears of relief and gratitude streaming down my face. I couldn't have done it without you, Jalen. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Stepping out into the bright sunlight, I felt a profound sense of freedom. The nightmare was finally over. I was free from Dallas's lies and manipulation, ready to start anew on my own terms. Then I saw her Blakely, standing on the courthouse steps, her face etched with shock and disbelief. Dallas! She called out, her voice trembling. What happened? What's going on? I watched as Dallas walked past her, his head bowed in defeat. It's over, Blakely. We're done. I've lost everything. Her face crumbled, tears streaming down. But what about us? What about our future together? Dallas shook his head, bitterness lacing his voice. There is no future, Blakely. I'm broke, and I'm alone. You'd better find someone else to latch onto. As Blakely collapsed to the ground, sobbing, a part of me felt a twisted sense of satisfaction watching her suffer. She had contributed to the destruction of my family, and now she was facing her own consequences. But mostly, I felt exhaustion, tired of the lies, the betrayal, and the endless conflict. I was ready to move forward, to build a new life for myself and my daughters. I walked away from the courthouse, my head held high, the battle finally over, and I had emerged victorious. Dallas and Blakely had undone themselves, and I was liberated, free to seek happiness anew. A year had passed since the divorce, and I was in my new apartment, surrounded by boxes and remnants of my past life. I had a new home, a thriving business, and a newfound peace. However, there was still one unresolved matter: Amaya and Ruth. They had been distant, grappling with their father's betrayal and their own feelings of guilt. I knew they needed time and space, which I had given them, but it was time to reconnect. I was ready to mend our relationship, to help them understand and heal. After all, I was not just a survivor and a fighter, I was their mother, and nothing would ever change that. They needed time to heal and find their own path, and I had given them that. But now, as they prepared to head off to college, I knew it was time to reach out and reconnect fully. With a mix of anticipation and anxiety, I picked up the phone and dialed Ruth's number. She answered on the third ring, her voice carrying a hint of hesitation. "Mom, is everything okay?" "Everything's fine, sweetheart. I just wanted to talk to you and your sister. Can you come over?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. There was a lengthy pause, and for a moment I feared she might decline. But then, softly, she agreed. "Okay, we'll be there in an hour." I busied myself with straightening up the apartment, trying to quell the butterflies in my stomach. When the doorbell rang, my heart skipped a beat. I opened the door to find Amaya and Ruth standing there, their expressions filled with caution and uncertainty. "Come in, girls," I said, stepping aside to let them enter. We sat in the living room, enveloped by an awkward silence until Amaya broke it, her voice trembling. "Mom, we're sorry for everything." Tears welled up in my eyes. "I know, baby. I'm sorry too. I should have been more present, should have shielded you better from your father's deception." Ruth shook her head, sadness in her eyes. "It's not your fault, Mom. We were the ones who believed him, who turned against you. We were so foolish." I reached out, taking their hands in mine. "You weren't foolish, Ruth. You were misled by someone who should have been your protector. That's on him, not you." Amaya's tears flowed freely. "But now we're paying the price. Dad's business with Blakely failed, and he's broke. He can't afford to pay for our college tuition." I squeezed her hand, my heart breaking for them. "I know, baby, but we'll figure it out together. I've been saving for your education and we'll find scholarships, grants, whatever it takes. You're not alone in this." Ruth looked up, hope dawning in her eyes. "Really? You'd do that for us after everything we put you through?" I smiled, drawing them both into a tight hug. "Of course I would. You're my daughters, and I love you more than anything in this world. No matter what happens, I will always be here for you." We held each other for a long time, crying together, letting the pain and hurt from the past year wash over us. As we talked, planned, and dreamed about the future, a sense of peace settled over me. We had a long road ahead, but we would walk it together, my girls and I, united against the world. As they left that night, Amaya turned to me, her expression earnest. "Mom, I know we can't change the past, but we want to make things right. We want to be a part of your life again, if you'll have us." I smiled, pulling her into one last hug. "Of course I'll have you, baby. You are my family, and nothing will ever change that." Watching them drive away, I felt a renewed sense of hope and possibility that I hadn't known in years. The future was bright, and I was ready to face it head-on. Dallas and Blakely had tried to destroy me, but they had failed. I was stronger than they could have ever imagined, and I had the love and support of my daughters to prove it. I was Sienna Thompson, and I was unstoppable. Standing in the lobby of my new office building, a wave of pride and accomplishment swept over me. It had been 5 years since my tumultuous divorce, and since then, I had built a thriving interior design business that exceeded even my wildest dreams. My daughters, now grown and successful in their own careers, stood beside me, their faces glowing with pride. "Mom, this is amazing," Ruth said, her voice filled with awe. "You've come so far." I smiled, squeezing her hand. "We've all come so far, baby. I couldn't have done it without you and your sister." Amaya nodded, her eyes misty. "We're so proud of you, Mom. You're an inspiration to us both." As we walked through the sleek, modern space of my new office, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought me here, the pain, the betrayal, the endless nights of tears and doubt. But through it all, I had emerged stronger, more resilient, and more determined than ever to build a life of my own. And I had succeeded beyond my wildest dreams. Yesterday, you might remember overhearing that my eldest stepson and his wife are returning home for the birth of their child. So, my mother-in-law asked me to clear out my belongings and move them into the yard. Her reasoning was that since I can't have children and I don't assist with my stepson's business, the least I could do was make space. Despite my contributing $33,000 annually in rent, this demand felt overwhelming. Living with my mother-in-law is challenging. The house always seems full with my brother-in-law, his wife, and my husband as well. Despite my efforts to maintain harmony and keep the household running smoothly, the constant demands and the cramped living conditions have become too much. Finally fed up, I agreed to leave. Although I refused to simply leave my possessions outside, I planned to return for them later. After announcing my decision to leave, my mother-in-law simply thanked me, ignoring my protests. I quickly packed up and left the house. Just seconds after stepping outside, I took out my phone and called a junk removal service to handle my belongings. I'm Natalie, a 40-year-old web developer. My husband Jace, also 39, manages 4 restaurants. We're the same age, and many assume we've been married for a long time and have children, but we actually just tied the knot recently. Both of us were dedicated workaholics, and didn't marry until later in life. I had nearly given up on the idea of marriage just before I turned 39. But one evening, after a particularly demanding day at work, I decided to treat myself by visiting a trendy bar I'd been curious about. It was there, comfortably seated at the bar, that I met Jace. He was the owner and struck up a conversation with a welcoming smile. He made it comfortable for someone like me, who was there alone, by saying, "We have many women who come here by themselves, so feel free to visit anytime." That night marked the beginning of our unexpected journey together. As a new customer, dining alone at Jace's restaurant initially seemed daunting to me, given that I didn't have many friends to join me. Yet, the warm service and friendly environment quickly made me feel at ease. I found myself frequenting the place, often choosing a spot at the end of the bar. This spot became my regular seat, where Jace would engage in casual conversations with me while I dined. One evening, as we talked about work, Jace asked about my profession. "I'm a web developer," I explained. "I introduce technology solutions to companies and assist with strategic planning. I've even worked with general manager restaurants, recommending systems like a tablet-based ordering system to cut down on labor costs and boost efficiency." Intrigued, Jace wanted to know more about the cost implications for his own small establishment. I quickly crunched some numbers on my phone and showed him, but he was skeptical about the investment, deeming it too steep for his business scale. Despite his initial hesitations, Jace was always keen to learn from our dialogues. He valued the insights and looked for ways to implement new ideas into his restaurant, which I admired deeply. Over time, our discussions weren't just exchanges of knowledge, they were building a bond between us. Jace appreciated my hardworking nature, and I was drawn to his dedication. One day, breaking through our usual routine of casual talk, Jace suggested, "I'm always busy with work and don't get much social time. How about we go out for dinner sometime?" Thrilled by the prospect of dining out with a restaurateur, I eagerly accepted. Although I felt like a giddy teenager at the idea of a date, at nearly 39, I found it slightly embarrassing to admit. It wasn't just a one-time invitation. Jace continued to ask me out for meals, and naturally, as two adults who enjoyed each other's company and shared frequent meals, we developed a romantic relationship. 3 years later, as we both approached our 39 RD birthdays, we decided it was time to get married. Being a bride at 39 felt a bit shy to me, so I suggested to Jace that we forego a traditional wedding ceremony. Instead, we celebrated our union by dressing up and taking photographs. After the marriage, I moved into Jace's residence, a spacious 4-story house with a garden and parking, located in a posh neighborhood. The rent for such a place was around $38,000 a month, a substantial sum reflecting its upscale setting. Jace had been living there with his mother, which set the stage for our new life together. Despite potential complexities of blending family dynamics, I was ready to start this new chapter with him. Living with a mother-in-law immediately after getting married might seem daunting to many, but at 39, I felt mature enough to handle it. Plus, my mother-in-law was 68, and since my father-in-law had passed away, it felt like a necessary arrangement. When my husband first proposed the idea of us living with his mother, I quickly agreed, thinking it wouldn't be too much of a challenge. However, I soon began to question that decision. After moving into my husband's spacious house, I was allocated not just a shared bedroom with him, but also a personal office space, which was a pleasant surprise. The house was large, with many unused rooms, making it seem excessively big for just 3 people. Curious, I asked my husband why he had chosen such a grand home. He explained that he has an elder brother who had become quite distant. After college, his brother had drifted, moving from job to job, rarely keeping in touch, and occasionally finding himself in troublesome situations. My husband and his mother had opted for a larger home on the off chance his brother decided to return. While I was setting up my books and getting my new office in order, my husband shared more about his brother, Atlas, with a hopeful smile. It was clear he held no ill feelings toward his wandering sibling. Suddenly, my mother-in-law appeared at the doorway, her tone less forgiving as she cautioned, "Don't talk too much about that kid. What if he really comes back?" It was evident she harbored some resentment towards her elder son for his unreliable ways. I sensed a potential conflict between my husband and his mother regarding Atlas, which worried me. My mother-in-law, perhaps sensing my unease, bluntly added, "I'm not too fond of the situation either, but let's make it clear from the start since we're going to be living together." She then walked away, her slippers echoing softly down the hallway. "I'm sorry about that," my husband apologized, seeing the discomfort her words had caused. "Don't worry, I got a similar talk when we first met. I'll build a good relationship with your mother as we live together," I reassured him, determined to make the best of our living arrangement and foster a positive atmosphere in our new expansive home. I gently took a book from my husband's hands, which he had momentarily put aside, and placed it on the shelf. "It seems she's not fond of my age," I remarked thoughtfully. "At 39, I'm certainly not too old to consider having children, but I could understand why the idea might seem daunting to some. Moreover, Jace's older brother Atlas remains unmarried and childless, heightening my mother-in-law's worries about never seeing grandchildren from her eldest son. This disappointment likely fed her wish that Jace had chosen a younger partner, someone who could give her the grandchildren she longed for. In her eyes, Atlas, who shirks his responsibilities as the eldest, and I, unable to meet her expectations as a wife, are disappointingly alike. I empathized with her feelings, but there was nothing I could do about my age. As Jace and I settled into married life, my mother-in-law's cool demeanor towards me became evident. She often ignored my attempts at conversation and seemed to avoid my presence. It was a lonely existence, but without any hostility or physical conflict, it felt manageable, at least for the moment. I hoped that over time, perhaps, I could forge a bond with her. My more pressing worry, however, was Jace's well-being. "How are you holding up with work?" I asked one evening as he sat slumped over the dining table, his head cradled in his hands. "It's not going well. I need to make some tough decisions soon, but arranging the finances is a nightmare," he confessed, his voice heavy with stress. I paused my chores and sat across from him to lend a listening ear. Jace elaborated on the grim situation. Rising prices, escalating expenses, and tightening customer budgets threaten the survival of our business. If things don't change, I might have to close another store, he said, worry etching deeper into his features. About a year into our marriage, the troubles at Jace's restaurant had intensified. One of the 4 locations had already shut down, and now another closure loomed ominously. Seeing Jace so troubled pained me, yet my mother-in-law appeared indifferent to these struggles. You're Jace's wife, but you don't help out at the store. You just stick to your own job. Can you truly say you're fulfilling your role as a wife? She suddenly snapped from her spot on the sofa, having overheard our conversation. Her words, steeped in judgment and frustration, cut through the room, adding to the already tense atmosphere. As I pondered her thoughts, I realized that she often viewed things from a different angle. Jace, my husband, has successfully run his own restaurant for 12 years, navigating numerous obstacles along the way. I was confident he would overcome the current challenge too. Despite this, his wife's expression seemed to convey doubt, almost as if she were adding to his stress, pushing him towards failure. What a dreadful wife! She exclaimed loudly from the living room into the dining area, her words sharp and bitter. Although her harsh remarks seemed intended to provoke me, I chose to take them constructively and committed myself fully to supporting Jace, offering him a comforting smile in his moment of anxiety. A year later, just as I had believed, Jace managed to revive his business and prevent the closure of his second store. See, I told you. A foolish wife who can't even trust her own husband will only hold him back. She criticized again, and as a consequence, my usually distant mother-in-law began to openly criticize me. While our relationship appeared to deteriorate, I took solace in the fact that Jace's business was thriving, considering it a tolerable compromise. However, the equilibrium I felt was misleading. As Jace's business stabilized and grew financially, he seemed to lose focus, and soon, whispers of his infidelity reached me. I pondered the mismanagement of newfound resources and how quickly adverse situations could escalate a concept I was familiar with, but never imagined would personally affect me. One day, news came that his girlfriend was expecting. It was a shock. She was a 29-year-old who worked at the same bar as Jace. Adding to the complexity, Atlas, a website content writer who was the father-to-be, approached us with a significant request. Struggling with the impending financial strain of a newborn, Atlas and his girlfriend asked if they could move into our home and work at the restaurant. I was still processing how to address Jace's affair when my mother-in-law started a conversation with him about Atlas, a man I had never met, and I was left out of their discussion entirely. Previously, she had little regard for Atlas, criticizing him for not fulfilling his duties as the eldest son. Yet now, with a grandchild on the way, she was eager to support him, even suggesting offering them a place to live and employment. Caught in this turning tide, I watched from the dining area as Jace, visibly concerned, caught my gaze. Come on, it's a good thing, I reasoned. Atlas is in a tight spot, and you, Jace, have the means to help him. Recognizing the gravity and the opportunity in the situation, I sighed. All right, I understand. Jace often found it difficult to assert himself against his mother, and I had secretly hoped he would start standing up for himself. Unfortunately, it turned out to be wishful thinking. I caught him glancing over at me, his eyes filled with concern about how I was handling everything. The mounting issues, my strained relationship with my mother-in-law, Jace's affair, and now the constant presence of Atlas and his growing family were all becoming too much. Feeling utterly overwhelmed and unsure of where to even begin addressing these problems, I decided to put everything on hold and just go to bed. The next day was a holiday, and due to my sheer mental exhaustion, I slept in until late morning. Jace had gone to work early, leaving just my mother-in-law and me at home. Reluctantly, I headed to the living room, bracing myself for her inevitable comments about my late start to the day. You sure slept in. Must be nice to have such leisure, she remarked sharply. I tensed, preparing myself for her usual critiques about not fulfilling my duties as a wife. However, what she said next was far more shocking than I'd anticipated. You heard Jace and me talking yesterday, right? Atlas and his wife are coming back for a maternity leave visit. So move your stuff out to the yard. I blinked, wondering if I was still groggy from sleep. Did she really mean for me to live in the yard, or was she actually telling me to leave the house? You can't have kids anyway, and you don't help with Jace's business, so you should at least make room for Atlas and his family. We have 2 spare rooms left, so if you leave and your office is free, we can have a bedroom and a nursery for Atlas's family, and a storage room for their stuff. Don't you think the room count and usage are just perfect? It was clear she was indeed telling me to leave, suggesting a storage room for Atlas's family. Initially, I was allowed to use the office because there were spare rooms. I didn't mind losing the office. A bedroom for Jace and me was sufficient. Atlas's family could live here without me having to leave. As I realized my mother-in-law no longer saw any reason for me to stay in the house, especially since she would now have her grandchild around, I thought about the $33,000 I was paying in rent. I was too tired to deal with all this. I decided to clear my mind and rest silently with my mother-in-law, the only sound in the living room being the ticking of the clock. After resting, I decided it was time to leave. It was too much trouble to worry about what would happen to Jace, my mother-in-law, Atlas's family, and their future. Understood. I'll leave, I announced, though I couldn't just leave all my belongings in the yard. I'll come back later to pick them up. Thank you, that helps, my mother-in-law said, seemingly pleased. Ignoring her, I began packing my things and left the house. 7 seconds after stepping out the door, I took out my phone and called a junk removal service. My decision, made after halting my overthinking, was unstoppable. I left the house and decided to stay at a hotel for a while. I had called the junk removal service, but they needed some time to prepare, which worked out since I needed some time too. 3 weeks after leaving, I rented an apartment and began living alone. I haven't heard from Jace since then. He probably thinks I'll come back eventually. The thought of Jace taking the current situation lightly infuriates me. However, today is the day after his restaurant's day off, and I expect a call from Jace when he visits the restaurant for lunch. Crap. Hey, what's going on? The restaurant was completely deserted, just as I suspected it would be when Jace called. He suggested over the phone that it would be more effective to discuss things in person, especially if his mother was there. I'm heading to the house now, can you come back? You can't open the restaurant anyway, right? I couldn't help but laugh before hanging up, amused by his seemingly urgent tone. Still chuckling, I prepared to return to the house. Upon my arrival, my mother-in-law was already in a frenzy. What on earth is this? The restaurant's fridge, cooking equipment, tables, all the important stuff is gone. You did this, didn't you? Do you think you can get away with this for free? It was clear that Jace had only shared part of the story with her. In the living room, I noticed an unfamiliar couple, apparently Atlas and his wife. They appeared confused and anxious, not fully understanding the situation or my mother-in-law's intense anger. Why would you do such a thing? The restaurant can't operate now. She continued to rant. It's my restaurant, so I believe I should have no issues starting the closure process or having the items I bought disposed of by a junk removal service, I calmly responded. Huh, your restaurant? What are you talking about? My mother-in-law demanded. Why don't you explain, Jace? You haven't told your mom, have you? Remember, I still own the main restaurant and the second branch, and the second one was in a financial crisis, right? I looked directly at Jace, prompting him to confirm. Yes, of course, Jace muttered, acknowledging the financial struggles and my efforts to rejuvenate the failing branch. You worked hard to turn it around, changing the tables, chairs, signboard, the restaurant's atmosphere, bringing in new cooking equipment, expanding the menu, and replacing the fridge and freezer to accommodate the new menu. Well, about that. He hesitated, then added, Natalie actually paid for those expenses. What? What do you mean? My mother-in-law interjected, her expression one of confusion and surprise. She seemed to be trying hard to piece everything together, but clearly lacked the full context to understand the implications of Jace's admission. Jace continued, looking visibly uncomfortable as if he was withholding more than he was sharing, but it was evident that the conversation was finally bringing to light the extent of my involvement and financial contribution to the restaurant's survival. Facing a room filled with tension and disbelief, I felt it was time to clarify everything. Before I turned 39, I was single and had a career in consulting. Jace and I didn't have a lavish wedding, nor did we purchase a new home after getting married, which allowed me to accumulate significant savings. When Jace's second restaurant branch began floundering, I lent him $570,000 to help revitalize it. However, simply handing over such a large sum to your spouse isn't straightforward. To formalize the arrangement and protect my investment, I decided to purchase the ownership rights to the second branch. Although I entrusted most of the day-to-day management to Jace, the key change was that he shifted his focus from the main branch to revitalize this one. During a time of crisis at the restaurant, when my mother-in-law criticized me for not showing enough trust in Jace, I decided to support him wholeheartedly. My support took the form of investing the money I had saved from my single years. "Jace, is this true?" she asked. "Yes, it's true," he confirmed. She said it was okay if I failed, but since it was such a large amount, she suggested becoming the owner. The plan was to pay back the borrowed $570,000 from the restaurant's earnings, but it was simpler for Natalie to become the owner and have the restaurant's income go directly to her. It also meant that she could decide whether to close the restaurant or not. "It's a lie! Can something like that really happen?" my mother-in-law exclaimed in disbelief. I understood her skepticism, so I'd come prepared. I swiftly spread out documents across the table: business license, transfer of rights agreement, and lease agreement confirming my ownership of the restaurant. Her face turned red as she saw my name emblazoned on each document. "Why didn't you say anything about this? You always talked about how you believed in Jace and how the restaurant was recovering, right?" she demanded. "Even before we were married, I always encouraged Jace. He felt the weight of your expectations, not wanting to disappoint you or fail in his role as the head of the household. Despite this, your attitude towards people like Atlas and myself has often been quite cold." This moment, with all the facts laid bare, was a turning point in how we all understood and appreciated each other's roles and contributions within the family. Given the situation, I decided it was crucial to lay everything out clearly. Before I turned 39, I was single and worked in consulting. Since Jace and I didn't spend extravagantly on a wedding or a new home, I had managed to save a considerable amount of money. When Jace's second restaurant branch started struggling, I lent him $570,000 to help revitalize it. However, lending such a significant sum to your spouse is not straightforward. To formalize the deal and ensure some security for my investment, I opted to purchase the ownership rights to that branch. While I left the daily operations to Jace, this shift meant he focused more on turning around this branch than on the primary one. The crisis at Jace's restaurant was a serious concern for us both, but it was after my mother-in-law criticized me for not showing enough trust in Jace that I decided to give my full support. This meant using the savings from my years of single life to help him. When questioned about this by my mother-in-law, Jace confirmed it was true. She said it was okay if I failed, but given the amount involved, she preferred to become the owner. If it was going to fail, we planned to pay back the $570,000 from the restaurant's earnings, but it made more sense for Natalie to be the owner so she could receive the income directly. This also allowed her the final say on whether to keep the restaurant open or not. My mother-in-law was shocked, exclaiming, "It's a lie. Can something like that really happen?" I understood her disbelief, which is why I had brought evidence. I laid out documents such as the business license, transfer of rights agreement, and lease agreement on the table, all bearing my name as the owner of the restaurant. Her face turned red as she confirmed my name on those documents. "Why didn't you tell me about this?" she challenged. "You always seemed so supportive of Jace and spoke of how well the restaurant was recovering." Before we were married, I indeed encouraged Jace consistently. He felt the weight of expectations from his mother, striving not to disappoint her as the head of the household. However, this created a situation where people like me and Atlas, who didn't meet her strict expectations, were treated coldly. "That's why Jace couldn't tell you he borrowed a large sum from me," I explained. He knew you would react negatively, she protested. He could have just told me. But the truth was, Jace couldn't speak openly because of her tendency to get upset easily. Often, people like my mother-in-law don't realize they're putting immense pressure on others. They might think they are merely expressing their expectations, not seeing the stress and challenges they impose. In moments like these, what seems like a minor issue to one can be an immense burden to another. Expressing these concerns isn't as straightforward as it might seem. There's always the fear that speaking up will only lead to disappointment and complaints. It was crucial to protect Jace's spirit, especially since the restaurant was beginning to recover. That's why I remained silent, even though I deeply wished I hadn't when the situation with Atlas and his family returning came up. Jace probably assumed it was work-related and agreed without giving it too much thought. During a tense moment at home, Jace turned to me, his expression somber. "Kathy," he said, "I'm sorry. This mess is my fault. If I had managed the restaurant properly from the start, you wouldn't have had to lend your money. And if I hadn't been so weak, I could have been honest with my mother about everything." Concerned about the repercussions of closing the restaurant, his mother interjected. "But what about the part-time workers?" "Don't worry," I reassured her over the past 3 weeks. "I've informed everyone about the impending closure, and they all understood. For those interested, I've managed to arrange part-time jobs at other restaurants through my IT consulting contacts." "That's a relief," she sighed, her main concern addressed. "So everyone knew about this?" "Yes," Jace said upright. In a moment of reflection, my mother-in-law apologized. "Jace, Natalie, I'm sorry too. I've been pressuring both of you too much. Natalie, I won't tell you to leave again." It seemed like everything was smoothing over, but for me, the resolution was far from satisfactory. "Let's settle this next matter," I said as I placed the divorce papers on the table. Jace picked them up, his hands shaking in shock. "What does this mean? Why a divorce? This was supposed to be about reconciliation, wasn't it?" "Don't assume we've reconciled," I countered. "You might think your affair with the part-timer was a secret, but I'm aware of it. All the part-time workers knew too. That's just a rumor." "You can't say things like that without proof," Jace protested. Without a word, I pulled out my smartphone and displayed a photo that a part-time worker had sent me. It showed Jace entering a hotel, a clear indication of his actions. "This photo of you was taken by one of the part-timers. If you leave the restaurant together and head towards the nearby hotel district, anyone can capture such evidence, not just police or detectives. Did getting the second branch back on track give you too much confidence? You really let it go to your head. As the owner, I wasn't involved in day-to-day operations, but I still visited the restaurant occasionally. That's when the part-time workers confided in me about Jace's affair and offered their support. They sent me proof and even helped keep the closure of the restaurant a secret from him." Amidst the rising tension, Jace, still trying to absorb the shock, asked, "Wait, if we're closing the second branch and divorcing, what's going to happen with the rent for this place?" His mother, unaware of yet another detail, looked puzzled. "The rent for this place? What do you mean?" I took a deep breath and revealed, "I've been paying the entire rent of $33,000 a month for this house." "Is that also true?" she asked Jace, her voice a mixture of disbelief and dread. "It's true," Jace confirmed quietly, as the reality of the entire situation began to settle around us. As the restaurant's revenue continued to decline, I found myself covering more and more of our expenses, until eventually I was paying the entire rent $33,000 a month. This amount equaled my own salary, so while I took care of the rent, Jace handled other living expenses like food and utilities. With the looming divorce and Jace potentially only having the main restaurant left, maintaining our current lifestyle and staying in this house was no longer viable. Jace and my mother-in-law seemed to deflate upon hearing this news, their posture slumping as if they had just gone several rounds in a boxing match. The gravity of the situation became clear, and Atlas and his wife, now somewhat grasping the reality, hesitantly joined the conversation. "What does that mean for us?" "We came back here thinking we could live here?" Atlas asked, confusion and worry evident in his voice. "Wait, This is different from what we were told. We thought everything would be fine once we got back, his wife added, her tone one of dismay. Sorry, Atlas. Right now, I don't have the means to help you with a restaurant or a house, I explained. We're actually reducing staff costs, not hiring more, especially with the restaurant's closure. Come on, do something. We're having a baby. At least give me a job, Atlas pleaded. We have enough part-timers. In fact, we need to cut down, I replied, trying to manage his expectations. Jace will work hard, so just wait a bit longer. That was the breaking point for Atlas. What about my house and job now? He shouted, his frustration boiling over. The conversation turned into an argument about their future, involving Jace, my mother-in-law, and Atlas, while Atlas's wife, whose name I still didn't know, looked increasingly uncomfortable and out of place. Having delivered the news about the restaurant's closure and the divorce, I realized my business here was done. Tired of constantly trying to mediate with Jace and his family, and refusing to be dragged into living arrangements with Atlas